Welcome to the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I'm Bobbie Grenier, your trusted guide to navigating the world of real estate in Maine. Get ready to debunk mortgage myths, unravel real estate mysteries, and learn tips to avoid costly mistakes. Whether you're an industry pro, an overwhelmed buyer, confused seller, or simply curious about life in Maine, this is the podcast for you. Hey friends, you have found the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Bobbie Grenier, and this is a podcast where we talk about all things Maine real estate and beyond. I want to give a huge shout out to my OG listeners. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. You are the reason that I put this podcast out every single week. And also welcome to any new listeners. You picked a great episode to join us for. So today I'm really excited to share a chat I had with the Lender Lady. Have you heard of the Lender Lady? She's Haley McGovern, and she's based out of Windham, Maine, and her story is absolutely incredible. This girl has so much energy, grit, and I can't wait to share the talk with you. So grab a coffee, find a comfy spot, and let's jump into our chat with the awesome and amazing Haley McGovern. Hey, Haley, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I want to jump right off. The Lender Lady. That is so memorable and so catchy and amazing branding. Where did it come from?
Well, initially, I met with a marketing person, like one of the first days I became a loan officer. Because essentially, when I entered the mortgage world, I actually started as a receptionist. And so I was like trying to work my way up to being a loan officer. So quickly, I became a loan officer, got in touch with like a marketing specialist, and she was like, "Girl, where's your brand?" And I was like, "Branding? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about." And she was like, "We have to get something that people remember you and come back to you. And, like Haley's a good name, but it's not like something people really remember. You have to have something memorable." So my husband and I were doing a renovation here in Cumberland, and we called the dump guy. And we're like sitting there, like, we called the dump guy for, junk removal. And we're kind of sitting there like, what should my brand be? And I think it was him, like me and him go back and forth still. I'm like, who came up with the brand? But I think he was like, the Lender Lady. And so instantly I looked on my phone and no one had taken the name. And I was like, and he's like, take it right now, take it right now. And I was like, okay. And I sent it to my like marketing people, and they were like, that's a really good name, Haley. And I'm like, it was honestly the dump guy, who's very popular in around Maine. And I just thought, people are gonna look for a mortgage, they'll probably call the Lender Lady. So that's kind of where it all started.
That's awesome. And I don't know why there are a few lenders out there that, do that sort of thing, but most people are just like John Smith with, whatever bank, and it's not as memorable. It's not, and you really need to stand out because there's a lot out there. So that's brilliant. When I first heard that, I'm like, rolls off the tongue, you remember it, super catchy. So that's great.
Right. Actually, so I'm at my office now. So we have a brick and mortar in Windham, right next to the post office in the North Windham Shopping Center. And a lot of people have stopped by because they're like, the Lender Lady, like, what is going on here? And I have all my, loan products on the window as like decals to like try to help just get my name out there. But I've gotten a lot of business on just kind of having that catchy phrase of a name that's like, oh, well, who did I talk to earlier? Oh, I talked to the Lender Lady. And then you could just Google that and I'd pop right up. So
I love it. That's absolutely brilliant. I know now I need to come up with something like the title lady. That doesn't even make sense. I'll come up with something. So how do you feel like that name goes with your approach and working with your clients?
yeah, so that was another thing as we were kind of approaching like the branding was like, I wanted it to be something easy, something memorable, something that people could approach that wasn't like, that standoffish, like, oh, I gotta go to this bank or talk to this person. So I think it's warm and welcoming. And some people have commented to me that like, oh, like the brand is so welcoming that like I want to use you because your brand is just like a normal person, right? And that's what that's how I try to relate with my clients is like, hey, I'm just like you. Me and you are exactly the same. Like I've been through this process and I've gone through it hundreds of times now, and I want to help you. So like, I want to make it easy and relatable.
That's absolutely perfect because I think so many people, whether they're a first-time home buyer, whether they're actually just getting into investing, they're intimidated. They're intimidated, if nothing else, by what they think they have to provide for documentation and paperwork and ID and all of that. So to feel like they have somebody that's actually rooting for them, holding their hand, getting them there, that's amazing. So, like I said, that you went from not knowing what branding was to knocking it right out of the park. You come from a pretty diverse background. When I was doing a little bit of research on the lender lady, I read it twice. I said from merchant marine to loan officer. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. So I was a merchant marine previously, and that's where I met my husband, Storm. He's originally from Maine. I'm originally from California, and we actually met in Alaska working on a tug and fuel barge delivering heating fuel to remote villages in Western Alaska. There was no like ports or anything like that. So we kind of hunkered down for like 6, 7 months at a time. So that was a really good experience for me, right? So now when I'm in my nice cozy office with my heat or my AC and my cell phone service and like working with my friends and seeing my family every day, I almost think it's kind of easy where the tugboat was really hard. Like being out there in the rough seas, first of all, was, I'm not gonna lie, like I would get seasick and we were away from our families, no service, like just working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it was really tough. And we really stopped shipping out because we wanted a family. And both Storm and I were like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out together. And so we kind of stumbled upon real estate because it's something we both can mutually agree upon as a smart decision. And yeah, I kind of got into mortgages because we were buying real estate in our off season, renting out rooms in our house, and then buying, another property the next year. So that was kind of our goal. And then I was like, I can do this. Like I know what they want. I know what they're looking for. I know how to run the numbers on properties. Like maybe I should be a loan officer. And then that's kind of how I started. And I really focused on investors as clients and merchant marines too, because merchant marines have very weird income where it's all over the place. So a lot of banks will deny, merchant marines. So I'm definitely a big advocate for merchant marines and investors too, because it's like I know how to work the numbers to make sure up front, like, is this going to get to closing or not?
When you decided to go into the real estate world, did you consider being a real estate agent, or were you totally drawn to being a loan officer?
I give huge props to realtors. Like, I have no idea how they run people around all day, get the contracts all done, have like 20 deals going at one time. I'm always like, oh my gosh, like I love being at my office. And I did think about it for a very quick second. And I was like, how like, I first of all, I didn't know anyone in Maine. So I was like, I don't think I have a shot at getting any client because I don't know anyone here. But kind of same for a loan officer of, I didn't know anybody, but I just thought I think I'm better with like this side of things than being a real estate agent. But hats off to them. Like they grind all day. Nobody has any idea. Like when they think, oh, this process is so easy. I'm like, yeah, because you have your real estate agent, your lender, the title company, like the homeowner's insurance agent. Like we're all working to make this as seamless as possible for you to have this great experience. So you're welcome.
That's right. I say that to real estate agents all the time. I said, it's nice that you want to like be doing all this behind the scenes, and it seems very seamless, but I would be out there saying, hey, not complaining, but this is what I'm bringing. This is what I'm doing for you. So yeah, it's a lot. I'll stay on the title end, you stay on the lending end, and we'll let the experts do that part.
I love it here.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the difference between a mortgage broker and a loan officer that works for a bank or a credit union or a lender that way?
Yeah, so being a broker really allows me to use my network of lenders who I can broker to. The main thing I always like to just educate clients on and real estate agents is when you work for the bank, your fiduciary duty is to the bank, right? As a broker, I'm independent. I don't work for the lender. I work for you as my client, and I have a duty to you to give you the best possible service rate terms that I can find. So when you're working with me, it's just you are, I now work for you versus you're now going to the bank and getting whatever you get.
I think there's been a shift years back. I've been in this business for quite a while, but there's definitely been a shift in the perception people have of mortgage brokers from even 10 years ago to today. It's so much more, like you just explained, that it's an advocate for you and you have access to so many more products for your clients.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've constantly, this is what happens the most, Bobbie, is I'll get realtors or clients calling me directly saying, this just fell through at the bank. And we're supposed to close in a couple of days. And I'm like, you just figure this out. Right. So it's funny, when I started this branch, people would ask me, oh, do you have an underwriter? I'm like, I literally am probably one of the best underwriters you could find. And if your loan officer has no idea what they're looking at, that's really bad. And that's what happens at the bank, essentially, Bobbie, is that, okay, I'm going from your department to this department to that department to that department. That's essentially one of the biggest differences. The biggest thing is like, I work for you, not the bank. And the second is like, when my eyes are on your file and I issue you a pre-approval letter, I've already done all my due diligence, contacted your employer, looked at your pay stubs, looked at your W-2s, looked at your bank statement. Like, I've looked at everything so that I don't have my real estate partners running around with a pre-approval letter that won't get to closing. Like, people know, oh, I'm working with Haley. We're going to close, and we're going to close in 2 weeks.
I was looking at your social media and it was like clear to close 2 weeks. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive, sweetheart. That's great.
We actually just got a clear to close in one day today. That is like the soonest I've ever got a clear to close. It's a refinance, but in one day, we're literally sending it to the lender. The next day, we're getting clear to close. Like, you will never get that somewhere else besides working with a broker.
What's the key to that, do you think? Getting everything up front?
Exactly. So it's having that relationship. This is a refinance on a client I've already worked with, where I already know exactly what's going on. I have a lot of their previous documents, but yeah, just doing my work up front. Here's exactly what I need to fund your loan. They give me exactly what I need. I get their loan clear to close. It's like, thank you.
One thing I wondered, we don't have to spend a lot of time, but I wondered if you would talk to us a little bit about reverse mortgages. There's
Yes.
a lot
So
of misconception around reverse mortgages, and I've actually, as a closer, closed many, many reverse mortgages and seen how it can truly help people. What do you say to the people that really have the wrong idea about what a reverse mortgage is?
yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I think that reverse mortgages are for a specific person, right? If you have a good pension, have a good 401k, and are banking Social Security and you don't need the extra money, don't get a reverse mortgage. But if you're that type of person that has limited Social Security funds, has very slim money in the bank, but own your house in cash or don't owe much on your house, tapping into your home equity can really give you a lot of financial freedom, because there's two different types of reverse mortgages. Either you take a lump sum at closing, or you can get what's called a tenure, which is where you amortize it over your, I don't want to say like over how long you're going to live, but over how long you're going to live, and then it's paid to you. So I think for people, like the reverse mortgages I've done, they're for people who are honestly mainly looking at like, hey, I don't have a lot in Social Security income. I'm trying to get a little bit of money to live because my Social Security income is only paying for my groceries. And I'm like, holy moly, like that is not a good situation to be in. But you have this asset here of your home, where the difference of a reverse and a conventional loan is that a reverse mortgage accrues an interest. So if you're okay with understanding this loan balance is going to increase over the life of its term, it is what it is. It's like people say, oh, well, now the bank owns my house. It's a first position lien, just like any other mortgage. You get a payoff. Whoever's your heir gets the difference between the value you're getting from the buyer minus your loan payoff. And that's what you get. The bank does not own your house.
That's what I've always heard. Where I'm selling the bank my house, and it's a mortgage. They call it a mortgage because it's a mortgage. And it's not for everybody. And if it's not for you, then certainly don't do it. Don't do it for your grandson, don't do it for somebody else. But in so many ways, it really is a great, great benefit for seniors or people that are living very slim in their retirement years when they really should be enjoying themselves. They worked hard.
I feel bad for people. Bobbie, the last reverse mortgage I did, this guy has been a veteran, or he is a veteran. He's been, in the military. He worked all sorts of jobs. I mean, him and I love the reverse mortgage clients are like my people. I just love all older people and I just have always got along great. But he'll sit with me for hours and tell me about, you know, his time in the military, his time having his own business, his time, at the mill, this and that. Like they worked their entire life and now they're at that final stage and they like Social Security just isn't cutting it for most people. So I think it's a really good tool. I always like to say, hey, this is the tool you can use. If you don't want to use it, that's totally fine. Like I'm not going to be the one to say you have to get a reverse mortgage, but it is a good tool if you do have some equity in your home or own it free and clear to give you some money so you can live a more comfortable life.
So, what are your favorite clients to work with?
I love working with like first time buyers or the ones I get really excited about. It's like this is your first purchase. But investors as well. Like I love helping people buy their first investment property. That's like really fun for me. And then, veterans, like I feel like when I'm working with a veteran, I just am like, not that I don't go the extra mile for everyone, but like really over the top of like, thank you for your service and like just understanding their loan type, what we're looking for. Like I've called listing agents on VA and I'm like, hey, we're submitting this offer. Like, let's go through what's the issues of this property because I'll tell you right now if it can fund or if we can't fund or we're going to have appraisal issues. And so people have always appreciated that. I feel like I always like pick up the phone with VA and I'm like, hey, let's go over this scenario right now. And I'm going to tell you, we can still get to closing in 2 weeks on a VA loan. And for everyone out there listening, real estate agents, yes, you can absolutely close a VA loan in 2 weeks as long as everyone is on with getting things done fast.
Yeah, it's really a shame when offers aren't looked at as favorably because it is a VA loan and there may be a few more hoops to jump through for that. But honestly, let's take care of our veterans. That's really, really important. So I can imagine that really warms your heart to be able to help those people that have helped us.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people, side eye a pre-approval letter, I'm the type of person that's like, this is a veteran who served our country. Like the least you could do is at least give them a fair shot at this property that they're very interested in. And the main things that come up with VA is the water. Maybe the veteran's willing to negotiate them paying for the water. I don't know. Like there could be negotiation for anything on the purchase and sale, right? Anything can be negotiated. So I would just encourage people to keep an open mind for veterans because, like you said, they've served our country, and the least we can do is give them a fair shot.
So I want to switch gears just a little bit. You had mentioned that you and your husband decided that you were going to put some roots down, start a family, and you've also started a business. How are you balancing all that craziness?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know if balance would be the right word. I am like just like get going through like I have two kids 13 months, so I had two kids in 2 years, less than 2 years. And so I brought my daughter with me to work. I brought my son with me to work when he was a baby. And really, Bobbie, what I do is my goal is to drop my kids off at like 8:45 in the morning, like to the daycare. And then I like to pick them up like around 4 and like then like be with them. And so that's kind of like my time where now my time at the office is like very serious, like get it done, like, straight to business so that I can have more time with them. But overall, like my kids all love my office. We come here sometimes on the weekends, like when rates fell, my whole family was here and we were just hanging out and watching TV. Like my office is just a huge open area. So my kids like playing on the bike and I want them to also grow up, Bobbie, and know that like anything you want in this life, you've got to earn it. So like I've earned where I'm at because of the work I put in. And if that's on a Saturday and we're all here at my office, then it is what it is. So I'm not like, oh, sorry, Sally, I can't get back to you because it's Saturday. It's like, oh, you need something done. Oh, you're that veteran client that I'm trying to get under contract. Like, yeah, I'm here for you. But we're also blessed that it's not like I'm digging a trench, or it's not like I'm here for 8 hours. When the refi boom hit, I contacted 25 of my clients and I had loan estimates to them within a few hours because of the system that I have. So all in that, it's also I've created systems that work for me so that it's not so much wasted time. And what brings me so much joy, to be honest with you, Bobbie, is like I now, as a mother with a family, can relate with people on a whole different level. Like, oh, you're buying and moving and selling and this and that. Like, I'm not doing that. So, like, I got you going to that point of like, people trust me to get things done for them. But at the same time, like, it makes me happy when I help someone with financing and they get to the closing table. And I know I'm like, this couldn't have happened without me. But at the same time, it's like, it feels really good to know that, like, hey, I played a big role in you getting this. And like, you're going to remember me and send me all your friends and your family because that's how it goes. So, like, people out there that are new to this business, it's just wowing every single client that you have, whatever way you work that out. I don't know. I don't know how you wow your clients. I know how I wow my clients. But if you could just do that to one person, they start sending you the second person, that person sends you the third person, the third, and it just goes in a cycle. So um, I like to say it's like client obsession of like, how can I serve you the best? But then there will be those times where, hey, it's Saturday and I'm working from 8 to noon, and it is what it is.
I'm thinking, how do I wow my clients? I guess I just service, 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 just always trying to do the best for them. And this can be kind of a sticky business, as we well know. So always trying to stay a step ahead and keep everybody straight.
Right. No, I've worked with Trilogy since day one. I was like, and the reason why I started partnering with Trilogy was because I would ask questions to people and I would get the fastest responses from Trilogy. And then if I needed something, it was like, I'm the type of person that I need to be in the know. I need to know things so that I feel confident. So if I don't feel confident, I need to know the answer fast. So having Trilogy in my back pocket has definitely been a game changer in my business. So I appreciate you guys for sure.
I know a big part of what you do is getting people started on investing. So if you have a brand new baby investor that maybe has just a little bit of money that they've been saving or they inherited or whatever, what's your best advice to them?
Yeah, I would first say never buy an investment unless you own your own home. I always like to advocate for people to secure your mortgage first. So, essentially, what my husband and I have done is essentially house hack. So, we would buy houses, get roommates, and that can absolutely be something you can do too. And I've literally told people this, Bobbie. I'm like, why don't you just buy the house and have your friends rent from you instead of renting from this other person? And they've looked at me like, are you serious? You can do that? And I'm like, yeah. So what I like to say is, you got to find a way, be creative. If you're walking into a scenario and you're like, hey, this is what I got. I got limited funds. I have a good job. I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was the same exact way. I'm overall very conservative of like, hey, I don't really like now I'm way more risky than I was, but I'm like, hey, I really don't want a mortgage. Like, how do I make someone else pay for this? Well, that was getting roommates. So that could be what you do as well. If you're out there saying, hey, I have limited funds, I have a little nest egg. And then what you can do from there is either, take out money once you have some equity in your property, take out some equity on your current home, or just save your money. I would say saving your money is the best option. And buy another property and then just completely rent out that other one or sell it and you can take your gain to your next home.
Do you find that I feel like a lot of people are catching on to this and are starting to build their portfolio, build their wealth through investing and acquiring properties. Does that make it tougher to get into this?
I would say that no, I don't think it's going to make it tougher for you, but you have to have that mindset, right? It's a very tough market overall. And I feel like, honestly, Bobbie, with most people will say, oh, I'm going to look at this house and I want all the terms to be in my favor, right? Where maybe you can go in and be creative and say, hey, seller, I noticed that there's a ton of junk everywhere, right? This property, clearly maybe you live in it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but maybe to make my term more favorable or my offer more favorable than the next person, maybe I'll just call the dump guy and have it all removed for you after closing. You know what I mean? So it's being creative and also knowing what's the seller's goal, right? Is the seller living there? Do they want to get paid fast? Are they looking for another house of their own? Like understanding as a buyer what's going on their side will allow you to be better at negotiation, which is really what your real estate agent will be doing. But as the realtor passes you the information, right? Hey, Bobbie, this seller needs a fast closing. Are you willing to move out, or do you have your lease all in order? And you're like, yep, let's close in 2 weeks. I got Haley. She's got me. 2 weeks. Let's go. Well, guess what? I've got tons of clients under contract by a fast closing. I've also got tons of clients under contract on, hey, whenever works for the seller. You're looking to sell your house and buy another house. Let's close when you want to close. We're in no hurry. So having flexibility will allow you to be creative. And some, even like my husband and I, at one point, we lived above our garage while we were looking for a house because, we could be super flexible. It wasn't like, oh, well, now we have to move out of here and we got to go there. We got rid of all of our stuff, lived in our above the garage apartment, and then bought another house. So it's making sacrifices to make things happen for you. I feel like a lot of people, Bobbie, nowadays are just like, oh my gosh, it needs to be this perfect scenario, perfect, perfect, perfect. And I'm like, that's not realistic. Most of the time, 90%, you are going to strike out with your perfect, perfect, perfect scenario.
That's a really good point because I do think so many times people think that negotiations are always about the price or the down payment, or when there are so many other aspects that you can negotiate.
I will tell you from my own personal experience, understanding what the seller wants and making that happen will beat any price because it's most convenient. I feel like it works really well, but you have to have that certain mindset of being willing to think about the seller. Where a lot of times, even when I first started, I was like, it's all about me. Oh my God, I have to take this mortgage and I'm scared. So it has to work. And like now I'm like, oh, that was silly. And I probably missed out on things because I was being a little too selfish. So many times at the closing table, we'll hear clients say, like, oh, this was way easier than I was like thinking it was gonna be. Like, and I'm like, exactly, like your first one is always the hardest. Saving up for the down payment is always the hardest on your first one. Getting to closing, understanding the process, the first one, super tough. The second one, third one, they get easier.
So, what is next for the lender lady?
I yeah, I love that you bring this up because it's so funny, Bobbie. Like I'm at such a point, and this is me being very honest. Like I am the type of person that I promote like being uncomfortable. I'm like, you should be uncomfortable all the time. I haven't been comfortable really ever, but I've been getting very comfortable, Bobbie. And you and two other people in the last few days have been like, so what's next for you? And I'm like, I love you guys because thank you. I need people to tell me that because I am getting really comfortable here. Like I love my office. My business is taking off. Like I've never done so much business before. And I'm just like, this is really nice. But what I think is coming next for me is more like building my team. So if people are like looking for employment in Windham, Maine, specifically in mortgages at my office, I think I would be open to mentoring the right person. But really, honestly, Bobbie, I'm just going to keep trying to do what I've been doing over the past few years is just, giving the client the best service that I can provide and trying to just be there and be an advocate for my clients like I've been doing. It's hard to want to grow from this. Honestly, I want to meet more agents and I can take on more volume because I now have a system in place. But getting that system was hard for me because it wasn't what I was used to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so different than what I'm used to. But now I have a system. I can now market more to different realtors, do more volume. But really like my what gets me excited, Bobbie, is like helping people. And so I got to have those conversations with those new buyers, mentoring people, doing autumn situational awareness class, and like doing just more uplifting things of bringing people confidence to enter, the home buying process or the mortgage business or like anything like that. Like I love mentoring people to get somewhere that they want to be.
If you could send somebody away from this podcast with a takeaway, with a thought, with an inspiration, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think if I would want to pass anything to someone for like in this business would be, this is a very tough market and really a lot of people are coming and going. And I would just say be obsessed with your client and give them the absolute best of you. So I like to literally tell myself, and sometimes I even write on my little notepad right here, act like this one client is your only client, right? How can I say Bobbie's my client? How can I make Bobbie feel like she is my only client? I have no one else. I don't have a full pipeline. I don't have a family. I just pay attention to you, Bobbie, and I'm here for you every step of the way. So that is something that I personally advocate everyone to do. You don't do that, I think you might be out of this business sooner than you think, because I think there are tons of people who are understanding that this business is all about service. And if you can't handle the stress of this, then, that's tough. But if you can learn, I think learning, just having that open mentality of like, hey, things change. Everything in the real estate business is constantly changing. The lending side's changing. You can be willing to learn and adapt and grow with people. Those people will literally stay with you forever. Like clients of mine that I had as my first deal are with me today. Like they've never forgot me because I acted like they were my only client because they were. But now I still take that into my everyday. How can I treat this person like they are the only client I have?
I'm going to tell you why I love that, because we need, in all industries, but this is the industry that we're in, so we'll talk about this. We need to force each other to level up and really up our customer service game. And I like to pride myself on customer service, but as you're talking, I'm like, I can do better. I can do better. So I definitely appreciate that.
Well, it's a reminder to myself. That's why I write it down to myself sometimes, is like when I'm busy and I got 20 clients going on and I'm like, holy moly, this is intense. And then I write it down. I'm like, I want them to feel like they are my only client. And it's again, going back to that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel.
I love that. That is absolutely great. I appreciate you so much coming on and talking with me, and your energy is contagious. I love it.
Thank you, Bobbie. Yeah, I love working with Truity. You guys have always had my back, and I feel like we are the dream team. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much to Haley McGovern, the lender lady, for coming on the podcast today. I'm telling you, if her spirit, enthusiasm, and grit doesn't encourage you to up your customer service game, I'm not sure what will. Check Haley out at thelenderlady.org or go to mainrealestateroundtable.com and check out the show notes page. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep it real. This has been the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast with Bobbie Grenier. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion and will share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to leave a review and follow the podcast so you don't miss new episodes. The content of this podcast is for informational purposes and not intended as legal advice or representation by myself or any of the guests on the podcast. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep it real.